I'm surprised they haven't spotted anything. And just to go back to finish off Ginny's question. And Ginny, you were saying about cubs leaving. What does occasionally happen, and I've spoken before about coups, so exactly what I'm saying, like a takeover that might happen within the hyena clan, where subordinate hyenas then start to become more numerous than the dominant ones and then look towards usurping their position in the clan. And sometimes what that leads to is almost like a schism in the hyena clan itself, and the females wander off. Now, I'm giving you information that has been observed, behavior patterns that have been observed. That being said, hyena clans and the way that they function in their social system, there's still so little that's actually really truly understood. So this is what we know now. We may discover something very different in the next 50 years of research into the way they operate. That's what I love about being here, is the fact that we may never know exactly how it is they're operating. Those guinea fowl, I think, have ducked over the top. They don't seem to have been bothered by the hyena. Corky is still fast asleep in the entrance to the left. No sign of her December cubs. I agree, Liz. Liz is watching in Wisconsin and really enjoys this den setup. I'm trying to remember how Wium described it. He basically described it as moving up in the world, like moving to a bigger house or a nicer area. I can't remember exactly the words he used, but Wium has a way with phrasing things that is absolutely hilarious on occasion. But I love the setup. The tambuti trees, it's all sort of hidden like it's in a kind of a grove or a thicket. It means that the hyenas have plenty of personal space, and we can sit and watch them in really what is truly quite an attractive setting, as Andrew is showing you. And what's even better for us about this particular den site is on sunny days, not that we've had one recently, but on the sunny days, there will be patches of shade for the poor driver and cameraman sitting in the bright sunlight, although generally we don't spend the hottest period of the day around here. All has gone quiet, and really all I wanted to do was pop into the den site for an update to see what these guys are up to. Seems as though playtime is over, and it's now time for the morning nap period. As you can see, all sleepy. Now, if these hyenas were listening to the questions that were coming through, they would very kindly give us a nice yawn or something along those lines. Sometimes those moments happen, sometimes they don't. Either way, Mike, you've said that you've noticed that hyena have very white teeth, and you were wondering if I could explain that. Well, as with any predator, the best way to age hyena, or lions, or leopards, or wild dog, is to have a look at the state of their teeth. So that one hyena that we saw in the fight a week or so ago, or 10 days or so ago, had very yellow, quite old-looking teeth. It was actually how I said, or how I came to the conclusion that it was quite an aged female. That being said, I think you're right, Mike. I think they seem to have whiter teeth for a longer period of time. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that's due to the fact that they chomp on as many bones as they do. Those of you who own domestic dogs will know that if you give them nice bones to chew on, obviously not cooked chicken bones or something along those lines that could cause them harm, but raw bones give a really nice tooth cleaning effect to the mouth, as well as being entertaining for them. And I guess hyenas, with their dominant diet of bones that they can crunch, probably help to clear away the tartar on their teeth. What is that? I can hear squeaking sounds. The hyenas heard it too. Corky at least lifted up her head. although she's now facing the wall of sand and going back to sleep. So whatever it was hasn't concerned them terribly. But since they've all gone back to sleep, let's go and investigate. It almost sounded like zebra alarm calling, but it was so brief that I'm not entirely sure exactly what it was. And as our regular viewers know, with my earpiece in the right ear, I'm actually slightly deaf in my left ear. Or maybe not deaf, maybe just doesn't hear nearly as well as the right. Watching me in Memphis, Tennessee, and you were wondering if I could tell you whether or not the hyenas that visited Tingana were from this clan. Leanne, my guess absolutely is that they were. The reason I say that is because of the proximity to the den. So where you were, oh sorry Andrew, I didn't even see you were looking at the guinea fowl.
They got away.
Oh, there they go. The guinea fowl that escaped the hyena clutches. Sorry, Leanne, I'll be with you in a moment. Guinea fowl I have found highly amusing recently, but what we have noticed, we've been waiting for this moment, is that they seem to be pairing up into breeding couples. It's been a lot later this year than I've ever seen it before in the bush. I think it was guinea fowl that we're calling, or Franklin as well. Yes, so they've been pairing up. They pair up every breeding season into a male-female couple. But for this, probably because of the drought, it was incredibly late this year. Later than I've ever known it. So it's nice to see it finally happening. Wandering off in front of us. So they're still wandering in their groups, but when they split off around an obstacle or something like that, then you see them in their pairs, their mated pairs together. Before I got distracted by guinea fowl, Leanne, you were asking about whether or not they're from the same clan. So I said yes, because of the proximity. Where you were watching Tingana and the hyenas coming to investigate him is about, I would say, kilometer at the most, so half a mile away from where we are now. That's very close, and to the best of our knowledge, this clan's territory extends all the way towards Torchwood, up into a little part of Buffelshoek, and then to the Triple M, or the western boundary of Djuma. And that's where their boundary lies with the Arathusa Simbabili clan. Difficult to say exactly, and obviously territorial boundaries are permeable, but I would say that almost certainly it would be hyenas, particularly in this core center, since they always den in this particular area. This is the core part of their home range and their territory. So I think it's unlikely that an older hyena and a sub-adult would come wandering through from a different clan. Not impossible, but unlikely. Particularly so far into the territory of another clan. I would say it's almost certain. The individual that Andrew and myself saw on Gowrie Lane there's a slight likelihood more that it could be a stranger to the clan, but even then, I have to be honest, I don't think so. I think it's part of that clan as well. The fact that it ran straight north into our clan's territory suggests to me it's also part of this clan. Just bear in mind that any kind of interpretation that I give you on the hyenas and their behavior, unless I tell you it's absolute fact, I could be wrong. I'm giving you my best interpretation of the circumstances and what I'm seeing and what I've observed. But nobody really knows, if I'm completely honest, exactly what happens within hyena dynamics. Now we know that hyena dens, I can actually still smell that particular one, really is quite pungent, more pungent than I've ever encountered before. We know that when hyena dens start to become parasite-ridden, obviously with the cubs urinating, defecating in the tunnels, the adults apparently urinating around the entrance, you can imagine that brings parasites. So what that means is that with hyenas, they move their cubs on a fairly regular basis. But obviously with the tiny little ones, one has to wonder about how they move them. And Christopher, you were wondering whether or not the cubs will walk with the females or whether they will be carried. Obviously, it is to do with their ages. I think it was the zebra that we heard, because they're here, and I think it's that stallion group. Oh, they're alarm calling at the hyena. That's what's happening. There's that hyena there. They just gave a bit of a yip to let it know that its presence wouldn't be tolerated. That's the old individual that we saw at the den, I think. They're the zebra stallions. Interesting. You can see them all keeping a very close eye on it. Although hyenas in this particular area are primarily scavengers. I think it just... Have you got a view there? No. I think he dashed off to the left. I'm not sure exactly where. Somewhere behind the bushes. The zebra are still keeping quite a close eye on him. I was in mid-train of thought. What was I about to say? Oh yes, although the hyenas are primarily scavengers, we suspect, not know, but suspect that they have been hunting, particularly recently, since there haven't been lions on Djuma itself, although they have been right around the boundaries. So I just wonder whether they haven't been hunting zebra. The foals are all out and about. I have seen hyenas kill zebra before, and this clan would be more than capable of taking down a foal. It might have been why they were on high alert, even with just one individual. One individual wouldn't try and hunt these zebra alone. As we saw with the wild dogs, they are more than capable of providing an aggressive and defensive response. But I think they're feeling a little bit nervous and a bit shaky with that foal around. What was I about to say? Oh, I was busy answering the question about moving hyena cubs. Now, it's interesting to watch. When we first found Corky and the December twins, they were at Philemon's Cutline Den, and she was clearly making every effort to move them. What she would do is she would pick up one twin, carry it, because when they're so tiny like that, I think they do have to be carried. I can't imagine that it's terribly safe for them to go wobbling through the bush, particularly since hyenas generally move at night. You can imagine how difficult it would be for the mother to keep wobbly little ones safe. I imagine she'd have to carry them. So she would try and carry the one, and then the other twin would start to squeal in a panic that it was being left by mom and sibling. So she'd drop the one cub and go running back to the den, and then grab the other one, and then as soon as she grabbed the other one, the one twin would have gone back into the den. It was utter chaos to watch. And we knew she was trying to move them, and then one day she just turned up at the Gallagher shortcut there. She obviously moved them overnight. So yes, they do carry them when they're young, and then once they reach roughly about November's age, and you've seen how sturdy November is on her feet compared to while we were watching her when she first made an appearance, he, she, it. And you see how much more stable she is. I think that at this age, she would be capable of walking to a new den site, depending on how far away it is. Now, they've moved recently to that Mbubu Road den, but that movement was a very short one. I think the distance covered was probably only about 150 meters. It will be interesting to see, because now there's 5 cubs under 3 months old there. It will be interesting to see if the increased parasite load might cause them to move a little bit faster. Aspect of it, I mentioned to our our viewers that I was going to go and check some of the older hyena dens, and I have been past some of them, and they definitely show signs of habitation, just like the one that we saw this morning. And Gubawala, watching on YouTube, great to hear from you again. You were wondering if warthogs or warties ever make their way into hyena dens if the hyenas are not in residence. And yes, it's entirely possible that we do. This morning we saw and suspect that an aardvark has moved back into that old hyena den, so they could well be there. But it's more than possible that warthogs could decide to inhabit a hyena den once they've exited residence. That being said, I would imagine, I don't know, but I would suggest that there's quite an extended time period between hyenas leaving and warthogs moving in, just because, quite frankly, of the smell. Hello, you're in a terrible place. Okay, sorry, buddy. Slamming on brakes in a very uncomfortable slope for this little hinged tortoise. It's okay. You could cross the road. I love tortoises. I've got such a soft spot for the way that they move. He looks like he's gulping in fear. It's all right. I was not going to run over you, I promise. No, but that doesn't mean come under the car, though. That's not quite what I was suggesting. Ah. Stop. Stop.
Naughty torty.
Oh dear. Bye. Well, we're going to be here a while. This is pretty funny. Evie, who's watching in Long Island, just to finish off with our hyena sighting, since Andrew and myself will not be going anywhere anytime soon. You were saying that before you started watching SafariLIVE, you had no interest in hyena, and now they are your favorite. For me personally, they're my favorite predator because they've got such interesting going to decide to come out from underneath the vehicle. So yes, Evie, I love them. I find them fascinating. Of course, as with every animal out here, they have a darker aspect to their nature. Just like they're wild. They aren't governed by the same rules that we are, and they react differently in different situations, just as they would for any predator. Now, I don't want to touch this tortoise because we're in the middle of a drought, and what happens when you do that is they sometimes panic and release the water that they have stored in their bursa. I know regular viewers are familiar with that idea, and so we might have to wait for an extended period of time before he can drive away. So in the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Brent and see if my tortoise decides to move.
So we are now right down in the sort of western area of the Djuma Private Game Reserve, taking a little gander. Crew that does like this area, and so does Shadow, so it doesn't look like anyone's driven here yet this morning. Having a quick look for tracks, and for me, just a general catch-up. I haven't managed to get too far around Djuma yet since I've been back. I mean, first morning, incredibly exciting. Off the bat with the wild dogs running around hunting, and obviously, from the video posted yesterday, something quite unusual happened after drive. So we've been following the wild dogs for the majority of the sunrise safari, and we had some fantastic views. And then, unfortunately, the rain got too hard for the equipment, so we had to head back towards camp. I know Laura and lots of others are wondering if I go into more detail about our little accident. Well, let me just start at the beginning. Firstly, it started off with Wium telling Scott and myself about the spitting cobra that was in the kitchen during the night. It turned out not to be there, but so when we got back from drive, we covered up the vehicles to make sure they couldn't get any more damp than they already were. Asked Wium, because it was still raining quite hard, if he would kindly take me across to my house, which is a camp probably about a kilometer from the DRC, the main camp where most people stay. And we were going to go and get the snake catching stick and go see if we could find that spitting cobra in the kitchen. And we probably drove 15 meters from the entrance gate to the Juma research camp, and I smell something. Oh, there could be some ellies around. And we were discussing actually the wild dogs we had seen that morning. And I was sitting on the passenger side, which is on the left-hand side of the vehicle, the opposite to North America and quite a lot of places. Just sitting, and my head was facing forward. We were looking forward. It was quite misty and rainy, so you couldn't really see around us. And we came around a bush, and what happened was this sort of a bang, like a car crash, right here against my head, and the window shattered onto me. And then instinctively, I think I turned like this, and the Impala got stuck sort of between the dashboard, with its back and head against the windscreen and its legs facing me. And I actually remember thinking as it came through, in Nyala, and it started kicking. So I did this, and I got a few kicks around the back of my head, also in my ribs here, and the bottom of my thigh. I've actually got an Nyala hoof print, sort of, and a scrape all the way across the back of my leg here. And I think I remember shouting to Wium, and then I tried to open the door, but from the impact of the Nyala hitting there, the door wouldn't open. So I shouted to Wium to open his door, but I couldn't climb out because the Nyala was on top of me. So I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I managed to sort of grab the sort of back legs that were really, really hitting my legs here. And then I just managed to sort of twist it. And Wium had opened the door, got out, and realized I couldn't get out. So he came back and he pushed the Nyala's head. And eventually Wium said it looked like I was sitting with a big dog on my lap. So I had the Nyala on my lap like this, and I was holding it like this. And this is where I got all the slight bruising on my face. Luckily, I don't bruise very, very easily. And it was head-butting me while I had it on my lap. And at the same time going, "Bleh, bleh." Obviously very stressed animal. I think there were 3 very stressed animals in the car at this stage. And then somehow managed to sort of unceremoniously dump it head first out of the car, out of the window. And then it ran off. And then we saw all the wild dogs around us only afterwards. Obviously, I was quite focused on the Nyala that was on top of me. I came off incredibly lucky. Firstly, it was a female. If any animal, an Impala or even a young male Nyala, anything with horns, I think I would be looking a lot worse than I am now. So just some bruising here. There's quite a bit of bruising here. I also think my long locks and my cap took quite a lot of the blows. So fortunately, the hooves didn't manage to or broke the skin slightly. So I've got a few small cuts in my ear and behind my head here. The majority of the damage seems to be on my legs because it was sort of tap dancing on them for a while. And a lot of the really painful part was obviously all the shatterproof glass. These tiny little slivers of glass went everywhere. Took a good half an hour with a pair of tweezers afterwards. I will try to post some pictures of the cuts and stuff. They're obviously under my pants at the moment. But with the tweezers, taking all the little slivers of glass out. So that was quite painful. And with a lot of these things, a lot of the really painful stuff comes later. So once you sort of calm down, your adrenaline's down, sort of all the bruises and bumps you didn't really know about, the non-sort of visible, or the non-bleeding ones. So I got a really nice sore. I shouldn't laugh too much. It's quite sore ribs. And lots of different bruises all over my thighs and that. I'm just really incredibly lucky that it wasn't more serious. Generally, when you get an animal in a car, it ends a lot worse than it did for us. And unfortunately, I think the biggest loser in this wasn't the Nyala or us. It was Wium's poor car. But yeah, so you can have a look at the video to see what the car looks like. And we weren't filming when the Nyala jumped through the window, although when I did tell Graham, he thought I was lying and said, no, this is like an early April Fool's. You've got to be lying to me. This can't be true. He wanted to know if Jamie was beating me for being away in Zimbabwe with Andrew for so long. I said that wasn't the case. But so yeah, it was definitely not something that happens every day. And we were all very lucky that no one was seriously hurt. And the video is on my Facebook page, and I will put it on Twitter again today for those of you who want to have a look. And you can see the damage to Wium's car and the amount of fur that came off that Nyala that is still inside Wium, the clumps of that orange fur. But as far as we know, the Nyala got away from the dogs. I didn't see the dogs chase after it afterwards. I think they were just as shocked as we were. But the incredible thing was the sound, that initial sort of bang. I mean, you watch videos, or you've heard those car accidents with sort of screaming bang, and it literally right next to you. It was quite a shock to the system. Fortunately, we managed to manhandle it out the window again. A little bit shaky afterwards, and then a little bit more in pain yesterday afternoon. Now, just sort of bumps and bruises everywhere. So quite lucky. Jamie had a good laugh at me trying to speak to my mother afterwards. I had a slight concussion, so garbling the words quite a bit. And well, Jamie got the strangest phone call of her life. As you know, yesterday was her morning off, so she was having a little lie-in. And then phoned her to ask her to bring me more clothes, because I was covered in glass and all the clothes I was wearing was in glass. So I showered at the DRC to try to get the glass out of my hair and off me. And it took her a few seconds to register what was going on. Obviously, the other clothes also quite a bit of blood and whatnot on them. But very lucky, and a good story to tell, although it is one of those that almost seems unbelievable. So there we go. For those of you wondering about Nyala versus Wium Brent, there's the story. We're going to carry on now, see what else we can find. I'm definitely going to be staying away from Nyala for a while, keeping my distance. Smiles would like to know, should I be concerned about disease from the Nyala? No, I'm 100% sure. I could have got a few ticks, but I think the ticks were still firmly latched onto the Nyala, and we'd get those anyway. With a lot of your antelope and your herbivore species, it's very unusual for diseases to jump across, unlike carnivores where disease and parasites, because we are omnivores, we can share quite a lot of those. We don't share a lot of parasites with herbivores or diseases with herbivores. There are certain ones, of course, mad cow disease and all that type of stuff, but those are very rare, and those generally come from herbivores that have been farmed under sort of mass. So lots of animals together and in constant contact with people, you get that jump over between diseases. But with a wild animal like that, I'm 100% confident I didn't get any diseases. And here we go. Nice big herd of impala coming up. No wild dogs behind them, no leaping in any direction. Vicky on Twitter says, see, long hair does serve a purpose. Yes, I think it really did help to stop those hooves going into my skull, which is fortunately quite hard. But she also says that Wium won't be taking me home anytime soon again. He actually joked about that. He says, I'm not going anywhere in a car with you. It's too dangerous. And strange enough, my doctor, who's got some impala around here, is one of my best friends and one of my fishing buddies. And when I phoned him to give him the update so he could give me a little diagnosis over the phone and over Skype, he just said, you know what, any other person in the world, I wouldn't believe it. But with you, I can't. You get yourselves into these situations. How, Leo Smith? How? That's yep. That's what happened yesterday morning at just after we finished the sunrise safari. Here we go. You can see nice, it's still cool morning, so quite a few of the impala are still lying down, chewing the cud, bringing up those boluses of grass and leaves to get the maximum amount of food out of them. Impararas. Lisa in Wisconsin says, you can't believe it. Our story coming back into DRC going, oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened to us. Imagine the Nyala going, oh my goodness, guys, can't believe what the humans did to me. I'm not sure who was more stressed at that time, the Nyala or ourselves. Yeah, and sort of throwing it back out at the wild dogs, but I think the wild dogs were just as confused as Wium and I were. They're like, oh, dinner, where did it go? It went inside that white thing. So we're still having a quick look around this area, see if we can find any tracks of shadow or karula. Oh, yes, and I forgot. Jeannie and quite a few other people were asking about the spitting cobra. I blame everything on this cobra. The cobra managed to leave the kitchen at some point during the safari, so we're not sure where it is at the moment. I of course, was in no state to try to find it, so thankfully Scott got the goggles on and the snake stick and went and moved all the fridges and ovens, because quite often they like to stay in the warm spots under the fridges and ovens. But yeah, we emptied out that kitchen completely. The cobra had vacated. Now the reason you do find quite a lot of snakes around human habitation is, even though we think we can be quite neat and tidy, we're not. And even eating a slice of toast, you drop lots of little crumbs and whatnot on the ground, and that attracts rodents. And so you always have rodents around human habitation. So where there are rodents, and quite a lot of snakes' favorite prey are mice and rats. So snakes will come to try and catch the rodents. And during the winter months, they're attracted to the warmth of the fridges and the stoves. So, Christy in Kansas City, so do you think the Nyala intended to jump in the car or not? Christy, I don't think so. I think it was trying to get away. I think we came out from behind a blind corner at the same time it was running, and it maybe tried to leap over the bonnet, but because of where we were moving and it was moving, it came through the window. But to give you an idea, we went and had a look at the tracks afterwards. Let me just show you guys quickly how far it was between jumps. So I think even if it hadn't been trying to miss the vehicle, I think it was in mid-air, it was committed. There was no ways it could change its direction. So to give you an idea, how's this, Tibbs? Can you see my feet?
Yeah.
Okay. So say this is the Nyala track here. There we go. So all four tracks, bang. To there. So that's about the distance it was touching ground as it was being chased by the wild dog. So it was bang, 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 and then bang into us. So really, really interesting. I mean, certain animals, the impala can do 8 meters in one single jump in terms of longitudinal distance. So it is incredible how these animals can move. So So unfortunately, no tracks on Impala Road. And it's amazing if you look around us how green it is. A couple of days of overcast weather and even the tiniest amount of rain. And that sunburnt grass has already taken on a completely different hue. It's looking a little bit more healthy again. So the problem isn't now while we're getting these little bits of rain and stuff and the grass stays a little bit green. It's going to be sort of come from June onwards after the rains when the grass hasn't actually had time to grow. And where the herbivores will be having a hard time with it. So let's go across at the wonderful Jamie, who's got a visitor all the way from Europe.
One of the beautiful blue jewels of the bushveld, this incredible European roller. Beautiful bright blue bird sitting on the end of the branch there. And as Andrew slowly zooms in, you might notice the odd bob of the camera every now and again. And that's because Andrew has the hiccups, which has been highly entertaining to observe. Luckily, as the incredible professional cameraman that he is, he still manages to bring you these sterling images with just a minor squeaking sound from behind me every now and again, which has been, I have to admit, one of the most entertaining moments of my morning. I'm going to try and contain myself. Every now and again his head does a little bob, much like this European roller. I'm just going to be quiet, see if Andrew still has the hiccups. Try and catch him out. Let's see if it happens again.
No, they've gone now, I think.
Have they gone now? Okay. Yeah. The hiccups got the stage fright. Well, there you go. We found a cure for hiccups. Try and catch them on our live safaris, and apparently they disappear on cue. Well, thank you for that, Andrew. It was highly entertaining. Look at this beautiful roller. It's so incredible to see the bright blues and the greens and the purples of the various roller and bee-eater species. Now, the European rollers have only really just started returning over the last 2 months or so. And we did see, for those of you who missed it, we did see the return of the carmine bee-eaters just a few days ago on Drive, which I think pretty much concludes our collection of migratory birds. So for those of you who are new to the show, what we like to encourage people to do is to start a bird list, and you can get well over, potentially, you could get over 300 birds, and I know our regular viewers are well over 100 in certain cases.
Someone's on 200.
Someone's on 200, really? Wow. Now that is impressive. It's almost like a treasure hunt in its own way. Oh, maybe that's what I should have done. Lois was loving Andrew's hiccups, and maybe what I should have done is give him some water. Sorry, Andrew. All I did was just laugh at you, which isn't very sympathetic. My apologies. Perhaps I should have offered you the giant 5-litre water that I generally carry around for such emergencies. Now, he's sitting perched up on this branch, waiting for the opportunity to strike, and they are fierce predators of various cricket species, maybe flies, butterflies, even moths will fall prey to something like a European roller. And it's always fascinating to watch them. Oh, he opened his beak there for a moment. You can see how he's turning his head, focusing that incredible vision that all birds have and are famous for. Their eyesight is better than ours, for the most part. And also, of course, there's no point in having bright, beautiful plumage if other bird species or other individuals of your species can't see it. So they have got the full range of color vision, as far as I know. They are fascinating to watch, and we've got to take these opportunities for the moment because they will be migrating towards April. They start to vanish off back up to the north. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that migration happens a bit earlier this particular year. We've spoken before about some of the fact that the birds have been moving towards the more rain-drenched or rain-blessed areas of this country. They are moving to wherever there's insect population explosions. But definitely add it to your bird list, tick that off, and see if we can get other bird species on the list for you in the sunset safari. Now, I know that Brent has been discussing that Nyala incident with you all. Of course, we're all very relieved that both him and Wium are healthy and safe, if somewhat battered and bruised. And it's one of those aspects of being Brent's girlfriend, is that he seems to attract these incredibly strange and totally bizarre incidents in the bush. It's one of those things I think I'm going to have to get used to in my life, is having phone calls like that first thing in the morning. I was very confused. I know that Brent described my reaction. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me, to be honest. It didn't help that due to the slight concussion to the head, his words weren't coming out in exactly the right order, which in itself was fairly confusing, if only amusing in hindsight now that he's absolutely fine and well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful to have you on the back of the vehicle with us this morning. Thank you, Andrew, for your wonderful camera work and your highly entertaining hiccups. And thank you all for your questions and your comments that you've been feeding us through. We'll catch you this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. I'm going to send you back over to Brent for the last few moments of our sunrise safari. Cheers, guys.
So we're actually back at the scene of the crime now, and you can see there's glass everywhere here on the ground. So these are the little tiny little shards that actually were quite painful, taking the little pieces out of my legs. And as you can see here, there's the elephant fence behind me, and you can see the wooden wall of our camp right there. So I mean, literally right outside. We drove out there, and that Nyala came through this bush. I mean, right past the back of the workshops. But yeah, so we're very, very lucky. I am checking very carefully in all directions that there's no Nyala about. I think I've got a phobia developing. I was rooting for Tingana this morning. But don't forget to join us for the Sunset Safari. It's been great having you with us, and see you a little later today.